I pass it on to Mr. Kedenshaw.
Hi, good morning, all. Good morning. My name is Ken Henshaw. I work in the Niger Delta. I'm the executive director of the NGO With the People, and With the People is based in the Niger Delta cities of Port Harcourt and Calabar. You're all welcome. Thank you so much.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, Madam Priscilla, we hear you.
Yes, ma'am, we hear you.
My name is Priscilla Chapa. I'm the Global Lead for Women Environmental Program. Our head office is based in Nigeria, in Abuja. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ifoma Malo. I work for Clean Tech Hub.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dolumide. I'm the team lead for ICCDI. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kumasiri Simiri Uba. I work for Angel Support Foundation, founder and chief executive officer. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you for the introduction. The last meeting held a few weeks before COP26, and we had quite a number of people who were represented on the call, but also part of various delegations who made it to the global event. And for a start, we thought this meeting could kick off with some of the COP26 takeaways for Africa and Nigeria, which can then inform some of the things the coalition would be doing this year. So the item on the agenda is basically to look at COP26 takeaways, the continental and national implications, and how it affects especially the civil society organizations who are doing the work here in Nigeria, and then that then feed into how we can mobilize action, even as we begin to prepare for COP27. And I think I would leave the floor open to anyone to chip in what they feel are key takeaways that would matter in the coming months and years for climate action in Nigeria and Africa. Anyone who's interested can go ahead. Yeah, remarks.
Hello, Madam Ifi, do you want to start?
Ken, I was going to call your name. I think you should start.
Well, I called you first, Ifi.
No, I mean, so for me, I think one of the things, I didn't attend COP, even though I attended quite a bit of the side events. So I'm speaking as a spectator, but I think for me, this would go back to what Dr. Chapa has been ringing in our ears about this year's COP. And how, first of all, reviewing what happened for the 26th and taking the lessons learned to be better prepared for the one that is happening this year, the 27th COP. And thinking about how we can then frame our own agenda as a country and working with the Ministry of Environment, making sure that that agenda is front and center. One of the things that I think came out strongly for me during the last COP was we could have been more coordinated. We could have been to get our voices on the table. We could have been more coordinated to get our activists and people that are on the ground into critical panels. A lot of the panels were very, excuse my saying so, white. And as a result, a lot of the conversations that I saw, that the ones that I was able to catch, were framing a lot of the climate issues from their perspective. And so the African agenda, to say nothing of the Nigerian agenda, wasn't really strongly reflected in those conversations. And for some of the side events where I participated in, I brought up this over and over again until I'm sure people got tired of hearing it. But rather than complain, I think it goes back to Dr. Achapa's call to action to us to be a bit more proactive this year as we're defining the agenda, reviewing with our lenses on what happened last year and maybe in the past, but using that as an energizer to sort of define what are the 3 to 5 critical issues we want to put on the agenda during this COP as a coalition. So that we're not always, not sometime in September, we now start running around to try and create some sort of momentum. And so for me, that's my key takeaway and my hope of what we're trying to achieve now. This is March, so it's still early days. But I will also suggest, I'm sure a lot of people would want to speak, that we have this meeting monthly so that we're always also tracking and reviewing what we have come up with. Hopefully sometime by April, maybe May, we have a position paper that we're now ready to submit to the Minister of Environment. And then using that as an engagement tool also with the government officials, but also using it as an advocacy tool with all our other stakeholders and partners that are on the ground. So that we're socializing them about what we're doing and also getting their voices into some of those conversations and these documentations of what we want to present at COP27. That would be my intervention. Okay, back to you, Ken.
Thanks, Ife. I think you've pretty much said everything. If I speak now, I'll just be restating what you said. Yeah, but thanks, Ife. I think I agree with you totally that one of our major directions should be, and I'm sure that Dr. Priscilla can help a lot in this regard, is how we are able to more creatively synergize the position of civil society and that of the Nigerian government. In the past, we have not really had much of a say in what the Nigerian delegation presents at the various COPs. I don't think we've had an adequate say in that. And I think that we need to look for creative ways, beginning now, to work towards ensuring that the things we care about, the things we're concerned about, also find their way into whatever document and whatever position the Nigerian delegation presents at the COP in Egypt. And secondly, I think that we need to find a way, creative ways, I don't know what those ways are at the moment, to ensure that critical community voices, the people who are in the front lines of the impacts of climate change, that their voices are actually heard in this COP. There are many creative ways. We could explore the technicalities, the ways, the different strategies for getting those voices actually heard. But I wasn't in the last COP at Glasgow, but I've been in previous COPs. You see that when people are talking about community impact, impacts, marginalized spaces, frontline communities, African spaces are hardly ever mentioned. It's always people from South America, the Caribbeans, and so on that have their voices heard there. And now the COP is coming to Africa. I do not want to call it an African COP. It isn't an African COP just because it's holding on the African continent. But I think it should be a COP that Africa capitalizes on. Our frontline communities actually do capitalize on. And so this is me saying we need to find creative ways to get the voices of indigenous communities better heard at this COP. Have their participation more protected, more, basically let's see another dimension to this problem. Communities in the Niger Delta that are suffering sea level rises, communities in the Northeast suffering desertification, even red communities in Cross River State having their forests taken away by the implementation of red. We need to have those voices more heard at the COP, and they have been very quiet. And then thirdly, myself and Comrade Nemo have been walking around, linking up with other African countries, especially West African countries, who have been toying with the idea of creating some kind of West African climate justice movement. He included this at his presentation last month at the FES, Frederick Ebert Stiftung event, which Dr. Priscilla attended also. The need for us to link up, because we got a delegation from Senegal who came to Nigeria, and we went with them to several communities, and one thing was clear: the impacts are pretty much the same across the West African region, pretty much the same. The exact same impacts are happening everywhere. And so we are suggesting that we could, Nigeria could use this opportunity to link up with other West Africa communities and West African movements, so that the position which we present at the COP will be pretty much the same. We basically reinforce ourselves, saying saying pretty much the same thing, pursuing the same agenda, and by doing that, we massify our voices. So those are the three critical points I think we need to I need to mention at this point. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Henshaw.
Hi, Ken, can I say something? Because I'm multitasking. I'm right now in Katsina in another meeting. In a few minutes, I'll be entering another meeting.
Okay, ma.
One or two things. Thank you very much for the summary, and to my sister, Ifoma, for all the discussion. Of course, I'm not going to say that not always been here. And of course, the civil society where we're in Glasgow, they complain. They reached out to us to say that they are not seeing the African civil society organizations being in the forefront of the struggle. And it is always from the global south, from the global north, that are always leading this protest, and the people from the Latin America or from the Asia. So they don't know what is happening to the African civil society. So there have been some conversations going around. We have meetings as women and gender constituency at the global level, and we are trying to see how we can harmonize our activities. But for us at WEB, we are going to partner with Christian Aid, and we need to have as much information from Nigeria and in the countries where we have our offices, which is Togo, Niger, Burkina Faso, Tunisia. We are going to bring them together, and we are hoping that around May or June, we should be able to go to Egypt to go and have some discussions with even the civil society on the ground. So it is a welcome idea for us to begin to work together. So in this regard, I will expect that, or I'm suggesting that we also partner with this coalition to see how we can move this process forward, how we can synergize that we have. I think it's very important that we begin to do that. So for us, we are ready as an organization, and we're looking for more and more resources of how we can bring the voices of Nigerians who are, not just Nigerians, but Africans whose voices have not really been heard during these COPs, and who are seen not to be there in Article 27. So it would be good for us to work together to see how we can begin this process. But we're going to have a national workshop, and then how can we engage our government. Unfortunately, we have interministerial committee on climate change, and most of the actors don't really know what they're supposed to be doing. Day before yesterday, I saw the minister made a presentation of the NDC. So, and then the National Action Plan on Gender and Climate Change. How do we take it on board? How do we begin to work with it? Yes, I'm glad that Nemo started working at the sub-regional level, which I was part of it. I'm glad that I joined that meeting, even though I was multitasking. But I think it's very important that we begin to use synergy and many other coalitions that are out there. But we need to make this coalition a very strong one so that we can begin to harvest information, and of course, just like if you say it, have a position paper where we can engage our government, let them know that these are the inputs that we have. And so while they begin to prepare for COP27, it is important that they bring the voices of the communities to the table and let it be mainstream in their position to not Nigeria that we need to have their share. Group of negotiators will also have their own position. So at the continental level, we know PACJA has been working there and has been working with the African Union
But how can we also partner with PAJA to ensure that the issues that we're bringing are also mainstreamed into the African group of negotiators? So these are my thoughts, and we should be able to find ways of how we can integrate both at the national level, sub-national level, and at the regional level. And we can only do this if we have networks in those countries that are focusing on this area and we engage with them. So for us as well, our offices in these countries that were mentioned, we're already engaging them. For instance, Burkina Faso is also working to how to bring the civil society to the table and how to move this process forward. So that is on the table. How can we work together? Not just in Nigeria. Yes, our country, Nigeria, is the first, but Nigeria also has to key into the ECOWAS negotiations. They have to key into the African group of negotiators. But how can we, at these all levels, engage these actors?
You were telling me about the
Over.
Thank you so much, Ma, for your contributions. Mr. Olumide.
Yeah, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning.
Yes, Olumide, we hear you.
Okay. I don't know. I don't have anything to actually add because all the leaders and the mommy and the daddies have said everything. But from my own constituency, I just feel that one of the gaps that I notice is that we don't even know what the government is taking to COP. Like for instance, let me give a very good example of what just happened recently. The United Nations Environment Assembly Conference. I was in Kenya, just got back 2 days ago. And I noticed that I got to this meeting, I don't even know the direction, the focus, what the ministry is even talking about in the meeting. These are the kind of things that there should be stakeholders engagement for us to help them to even harmonize or put on paper or share with them what we civil society are actually looking at to change. And the conference was actually focusing on plastic pollution. And if you see, I remember they discussed something around two policy documents that they launched on waste management and stuff like that. How many civil society even know about this? So most of the time when we go to COP, we don't even know the agenda, the plan, what the government is. For instance, there's no big deal for us to know all the side events the ministry will be attending. Most of the time, we just want to listen and also to understand where the direction they are going to. So the gap is too big, it's too much. And like one of my sisters said when we started, it is now around September, October. Everybody will now be rushing. The first rushing is the accreditation. That people will now be rushing and will now forget the main conversation that's going to happen in COP. So I think we need to look at what is the Nigerian government position leading to COP. What are they going to, the agenda they're taking to COP? So it's very important for us to look at that. And somebody also mentioned that we need to have a position. Our position, maybe we can highlight 3 key focus area that Nigerian, the civil society organization want to see and change based on the outcome we have last year. Then it will be also something that we need to use to engage them as time goes on, so that we don't find ourselves by October or by September now jumping up and down and see what is going to be. And lastly, I also want to say this, that what is the relevance or what is the, I don't know how to put it, of what civil society is giving to government? How do we know that our position to the government is actually reflecting the problem and the solution on ground? Example of the gas flaring in the Niger Delta. Is this not something that we should look at critically? And for them to, as also said, the net zero emission, what are the implementation strategy to meet that net zero? how are we making sure that that 2060 or 2050 that we are ending gas flaring is also realistic? So those are the things I think we need to start looking at to engage the government with, so that they can open up and let us know what their position is going to look like moving to COP27. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ido. Hello, Mr. Martins. Hello, Mr. Martins from Kappa. Can you
He's
hear
on mute. Maybe he
Okay.
doesn't know he's on mute.
Yeah, hello, good morning, everybody.
Good morning and welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here. And like what Mr. Lumide just said, I find it very difficult to speak after the people that have spoken here. But I think it's also very good to also lend my voice. I quite align with what the last speaker said, that there's need for us to create a convergence of ideas as to how we can harmonize our position, going to COP27. I was in the last COP, and my organization, Corporate Accountability, Public Partnership Africa, harmonizes what I call the African climate change demands. Our work covers about 13 African countries and still expanding. And prior to that COP, we tried to engage government with this position, and we were also very interested to know what the position of government was. But we did also find it very, very difficult. We can't just be sure as to what direction we're heading to. And so it was a case of we trying to understand what our government is pushing, even though we have a clear-cut agenda that should be the summary of our position. Recall I said we've met with government, but I think it's very, very important. Our work, like what Mr. Henshaw said, is about giving expression to frontline communities, not just in Nigeria. We know what the issues are. We've been able to meet people. We have their concerns documented, but then there's need for us to have a convergence as to align these concerns with the priorities of government. I think this is very, very important. So building alliances outside Nigeria, very good. Inside Nigeria, also wonderful. But there's need for us to have an idea as to what direction we'll be pushing. I think the next call coming to Africa is significant in a way that is going to challenge civilization. We can't continue to be a dumping ground. There should be a clear-cut agenda as to what we should be pushing as Africa. But then this must highly reflect on what we have internally agreed to push as a nation and as a region. So I don't know, but I quite agree that it's very important for us to make this an institution, that would naturally engage government and have the heads of government to some of these positions that we are pushing. Presently, our campaign is to make big polluter pay, and like I said, across African region. So we have a whole lot of concerns, expressed and documented, but this concern must be amplified. And who are those that should amplify these concerns? Who should give expression to these concerns? People in the front line, but it can't have the access. And civil society that should naturally be the bridge, I also find it difficult to access government. So that's where we are at the movement. So conversations like this is very, very important. And like I did said, we from CAPA are willing to be a part of whatever it will take, to break this, what I call it bias now, or to break this access. So let me just stop from here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your input, Mr. Martin. Hello, Mr. Cadmus.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning. We can hear you.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. I'm Cadmus Atakenade, representing HOMEF here. I just want to say from our own end, we believe that the COP in the previous years have not actually been working in line with the agendas of the people, what the people really wanted to see from the COP. The negotiations have not been really favorable to the grassroots people, and it is kind of worrisome. Even the last COP, it was still the same issues. So for that, one of the meetings we had earlier this year, we talked about trying to build an alliance or a network of organizations, civil society organizations that will really work with grassroots people, because this time we're looking at not just an ordinary COP, but a COP that is people-centered, a COP that is carrying the people along, the grassroots people along. And how will this be possible? I believe it will be possible only if groups like us that work with grassroots people actually come together, sit down and propose an agenda that will take forth to the COP. That would be a very good strategy. Like the previous speakers have said, they talked about us coming together as a coalition, creating an agenda that we can take forward. I think that would be a very great strategy to put forward. But one thing we need to have in our minds is COP27 was actually strategically positioned in Egypt. Why? Because Egypt, as it is kind of a ground where a country where a lot of activism is being watered down to the minimum. Just last week or some few days ago, I was in a meeting and we had a representative from an organization in Egypt. She actually talked about the issues that that the NGOs, the CSOs in Egypt are facing. It would be difficult for us to actually want to stage something like a side event outside the COP that would look like a rally or a demonstration or something. It would be very difficult in this COP27 because Egypt, majority of their laws are actually binding and restricting gatherings of, apart from the major gatherings that will be happening internally in the COP arena and the COP where the COP is holding. Every other activities will highly be restricted. So for this cause, I think we really need to strategize and start planning and putting our eyes and our teeth together to ensure that before the COP, we have gotten a strategic plan. We'll find a way to discuss with our country negotiators, because the fact about it is that it is what we discuss with the negotiators that they will put on the table. But access to these negotiators are not very, very easy. So I think we need to find a way as a coalition to create our own agenda first. Secondly, look for the negotiators that we can actually have meetings with and place our positions and our agenda before them so that it can be a take home for the COP27. Even if we are not there physically present, we'll be able to know that what we stand for, our agenda, our position is being put forth by our negotiators. So this is just what I want to make clear to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your input. And I think the last person is Kuma.
Sorry,
Okay.
Sorry, can I just respond to him quickly? Sorry.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, you said access to negotiators is very difficult, but I can tell you that if we set up as civil society organizations and we target them, we'll be able to reach out to them. In every country, we have a focal person to the UNFCCC and who collects all the information and works with the other MDAs is the Department of Climate Change Director. Can we target her and say, we want to work with you. We want to know what Nigeria is planning. Can you share the draft position of Nigeria with us? And in every country, we should be able to have people that will work with our national government, with the UNFCCC country, focal persons, because they are the ones that will coordinate all these reports. From my experience, even if other NDAs come up with a report, the report is being coordinated with within the Department of Climate Change. Sometimes they get a consultant to do that. So we have to find a way of how we can engage. We know the sectors that make up the climate change. For instance, in Nigeria, we have the NDCs talk about 7 thematic areas or 7 thematic sectors. We have the oil and gas, we have energy, we have water and sanitation, we have agriculture, we have the 7 of them. How can we engage these sectors or the ministries? And if in each of the ministry there is a focal person on climate change, we need to engage them and say, these are the things that we want them, even within the sectors as they're forwarding their own position to the focal, to the Nigerian focal person. They should consider those things, those positions that we want. So we need to identify the sectors and work with the sectors and forward our position papers to them. These are the strategies, and we can engage them one-on-one and not just waiting. We also know the state government that are working in this area. Lagos state government, for instance, is working very much in the area of climate change. We have Cross River state government, even though they have a department, or they even have a commissioner for climate change, we don't really know what they're doing. But we can engage them and influence them at that level and say, this is what we're doing on the ground, and this is what we want to see in the national position. Transport is there. What are we doing? So please, I think that it is important for us to look at these sectors and begin to engage at the level of the sectors, so that when they are collecting information and they want to send to the Department of Climate Change as their own position, which will be integrated in the national position, they will be able to consider our positions. But also, like I said, the way it works, I know that sooner or later they have started meeting already. The African Group of Negotiators, and Nigeria is supposed to be there. Sometimes the people that they sent as negotiators from Nigeria to be part of this and to articulate the African position, some of them don't even know their left from their right. So it is now for us to begin to engage these various sectors, so that whatever position and whatever the sector positions that are bringing to them, we should be able to say or have inputs into the position papers before it becomes a national position. Sorry, I thought that is very important for me to highlight. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Excellent.
Thank you. Yes. Hello, Kuma. Kuma, so are you able to drop your thoughts or your remarks? Yes, thank you.
All right. Good morning again. Good morning again once again. For me, they've said a lot that I had in mind, because the most important thing is for us to speak with one voice. It's key. I didn't attend the last COP, but the other COP I attended, I knew from what I saw, we just need to move as a team with one voice. It's key. It's stronger than speaking on an individual basis. So I think that's just what I'll add for now. And I hope we achieve that with these early preparations.
All right, thank you so much for your input. Thank you all. I think we've seen a lot of points and action steps. Okay, Mr. Olumide, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. Sorry to cut in. I just want to, this is like a question and that we should look. When Madam Priscilla mentioned about the African Group of Negotiators, I remember they just finished a meeting in Kenya, and another one is coming up in Zambia. I want to know, is there a correspondent from African Group of Negotiators to Nigerian government? Like, what is our position to Africa, or is there a participation from Nigeria to that negotiation, or do we have a position that always go to that place? Then secondly, what is the role of the civil society in working with the African group of negotiators in this? Because I know the president now, the coordinating country is now Zambia, and I was opportunity to be able to meet the minister and even the lead of the African group of negotiators. But my point here is, what is that linkages from the government to the African group of negotiators? And lastly, I don't know whether they've mentioned this, maybe I did not hear. Is it also possible to know our negotiators on some thematic areas that we can network or engage in moving forward? Thank you.
Olumide, I like your questions, but I really think that your questions fall more appropriately within the space of when we're discussing strategy. I think that should come up ideally, mean identifying individual negotiators and all that. At the point, if we get the names of the negotiators at this point in time, of what use is it for us today at this moment? Nothing useful at the moment. So I think we should keep that in mind in the parking lot, and then we can take that up later on. Now, here's what I've heard so far from the conversations that we have had. The first for me is that, I mean, we're pretty much on the same page. There's a need for us to collaborate more closely with our own government in order to forge a position that addresses the concerns of everybody, including that of the government, that of businesses if possible, women, basically everything, to have a common position which we take to the COP. The second thing which I've heard very clearly is there's a need for us to generate stronger community voices, and we can do that by engaging the communities more. And we have also, I think I've also heard that we need to, this collective which we have created, this coalition we have created, we need to expand it, expand the collective and bring in additional voices. For example, there are voices that are not here. I know that Madam Priscilla works strongly around issues of women and climate and women, and also sustainability, food sustainability and food systems and all that. I know that HOMEF works around frontline communities. I know that that Ifoma works mostly around energy, energy transition and power. I think that we need to identify the different areas that we need intervention in, and then to fill in those gaps, we need to expand it. For example, I think that we need, in this coalition, we need to have strong voices from frontline communities as part of this coalition. We need to also, if possible, have voices coming in from the academia, if possible. And there's absolutely nothing wrong from having voices of the labor movement getting involved in this. I mean, if we're going to have a conversation around just transition, then we probably need to have voices from the labor unions also represented on this collective. Additionally, it seems that we are all in agreement that there needs to be a conversation beyond Nigeria to forge a common front. So a conversation that engages West Africa, and Madam Priscilla has even said the entire Africa. We need to forge a position. We need to have some commonalities in our framework, in our demands. So those for me, those are the things I have heard. But just to add that, what we could do at the moment is to leverage on the strength that we already have. For example, we have government side kind of strength by, represented by Dr. Priscilla. In terms of, I don't know any negotiator, absolutely. I've never seen any Nigerian negotiation document. That is not my strong point, but I know that is Madam Priscilla's strong point. A good thing for us to do as a coalition will be to leverage on her strength in that regard. I also know that one of the things that we really need is that network, that linkage with other African countries in order to forge a common strength. And I know that Dr. Priscilla has that leverage very much, and also Nimobasi has that. So I guess the next thing we need to do is to identify some of these key engagement that we intend to be focused on. For example, we need to engage communities more. The next question should be, which frontline communities do we engage and who do we bring into the collective? We need to engage the government more. Who do we give responsibilities to carry out that engagement? We need to also expand this to include other civil society organizations. Which civil society organization do we identify and bring in here? We need to engage other organizations in West Africa and Africa? Who takes that responsibility, and which organizations do we engage with? I think that these are the kind of practical conversations that we need to be having right now, because we have, the framework we have passed the first stage, which is the need for a coalition like this and the need for critical voices to come up. Right now, what we should be discussing is the how of getting that done. I just felt that this could take us a few steps forward. Thank you. Hamon?
Thank you.
Hello,
Thank you
comrade.
very much. Can I make a quick interjection, because I'm also watching the time and we don't want to eat into people's time. I think, like you just stole my thunder. I think, a lot of the interventions that we've heard and that we've all made have been great, but I think we need to start synthesizing them into, like you say, thematic areas, and based on our areas of strengths and competence. So can we just get suggestions on the floor about what maybe 3 or 5 thematic areas can be, so that we can then assign ourselves roles based on our thematic areas about how we want to then approach whether it's our engagements or our advocacy around COP27. So for instance, one of them might be climate justice, and then another one might be energy transition, and another one might be, gender and youth inclusion in climate, whatever it is. But can we just sort of distill what those thematic areas might be, and then maybe even begin to assign roles, and then think about what practical next steps we want to put behind those things. That's all I wanted to say. Sorry.
I totally agree, Fee. Totally.
Hello, comrade.
Hello, Mr. Kalmos. Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yes, please, we can hear you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, comrade, you talked about, in your intervention, you talked about the need to connect with other networks across, not just Nigeria, but across Africa. To that, I would say presently, HOMEF belongs to a network called African Climate Justice Group. And we just had a meeting last, just a few days ago in Maputo. And the group is made up of over 20 organizations across Africa. And I think if we can actually draw synergy from these groups, and then try as much as possible to build our strategy plan into these groups or work with these groups, I think we can actually have a coalition or a network of climate justice group across Africa, because what African Climate Justice Group is focused on is basically on issues on climate justice issues, and is focused on different thematic areas that member organizations are looking at. In HOMEF, we are looking at grassroots, talking about climate justice issues from the environmental and climate justice issues from the grassroots. And there are organizations in that group too that talks about women issues, like we have groups like Women in Mining, Women. We have groups like La Vivia Campesina in that organization, in that group. We have a lot of grassroots organizations inside in that group. So I think if we can actually work together and find a way to link up with this group, it will be a good way to build an African-wide climate justice group that will be focused on basically issues talking about environmental and climate justice issues, because this will help us build a connect while talking about COP27, because from all indication we've seen that there are a lot of groups in different areas talking about climate justice issue, talking about COP27 and all that, and each person is trying to bring their own strategy into the system and all that. But I think we need to think of connecting, like Ken had said, we need to think of connecting with other groups across Africa and building a network. Thank you.
So practically speaking, Cadmus, I like your intervention. Practically speaking, taking from what Ife said, can we now say, practically speaking, that maybe HOMEF and Madam Priscilla's organization can take the responsibility of connecting with the larger African space? That is, they can take the lead in that regard.
Well, I wouldn't make final decisions here until I speak with my director about that. Then I can actually get to the fuller house about the decision on that. Thank you. But I think it's doable. Yeah, I think it's doable. Thank you.
Ify, do you think that's a good approach?
I think that's a great approach, but I also think we should define 5 thematic areas. We can narrow them down further before we close out this meeting. So can we agree maybe, and this is just me throwing ideas out on the table, that's, environmental justice, climate justice, sorry, is one thematic area, and we can have sub-themes under that. Energy transition is another one. What would be 3 more that we can throw on the table? Just so that we don't leave this meeting without a next course of action.
If it's sorry, could you mention again? I lost network for a second.
Climate justice, energy transition. What would be 3 others? I don't want to be the only one coming up with lists.
Yeah. I've been raising.
Gender and youth. Gender and youth.
Gender and youth.
Food sustainability.
Food sustainability. Okay.
Capacity building.
Capacity building.
And technology.
Okay, technology as well. While you're getting these down, somebody else was trying to say something.
Yeah. Hello, Mr. Martins. I think you mentioned the point.
Dr. Achapa, can you go on mute? There's a lot of noise in your background. Dr. Achapa, thank you. Okay, who else? Sorry, you were saying something, other people.
Yeah, I think that has been captured. I was going to suggest gender and youth as well. So we're in the same spirit.
Okay. Okay.
Can I just say that we need response measures? That is one area that we don't even have Nigerian as negotiators in the area of response measures. And for me, response measures is a very key issue, because when we talk about the environmental pollution in the Niger Delta, those are the things that the mining committees, those are the things that we need to target. So I don't know if we can add it to our list, if it is not too much, response measures.
Okay. Capacity building and tech, and then response measures. Okay. Was there anything else we're missing?
Hello.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Sorry, I don't know. How do we capture the faith-based organization? How do we capture them here?
Okay, can we put it under 6 where we can say civil society, gender and youth, CSO, gender and youth? We want broad themes, so we don't want to make them too narrow. Yeah. So that under those thematic areas we can then.
Please, I don't want the issues of gender and youth to be subsumed in others, because that is where we always have the challenge. When you say broad things and then you subsume gender and youth into one, it doesn't work that way.
Okay. Okay, so but where would civil society?
Gender and youth be on its own.
Where would civil society come in under any of this? Would it be climate justice? What is or should we put it as a standard?
The civil society works across all the sectors. They work across all the sectors.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I think capacity and technology response and measures can be merged, because if we look at response and measures, then we're looking at an avenue where we can build people's capacity to actually respond to issues of the impact, like adaptive measures, mitigation method and all that. And going further, we can actually look at technology to be able to curb and to push forward these mitigation and adaptive measures. So I think capacity building and technology and response measures should be merged to become one. that will actually make it a broader concept. So while we're doing the capacity building, we can actually train them on response measures and technology that they can use.
Can I just ask a question? Are we looking at the thematic areas that are being negotiated at the UNFCCC, or we're just looking at what we as civil society wants to do? Because if we are looking at the thematic areas, we have first capacity building, we have adaptation, we have gender and youth, we have technology, energy recently came in, we have mitigation, we have finance. So I don't know, I've forgotten the others. We have response measures. So I don't know whether we are focusing on the thematic areas of negotiation at the UNFCCC, where we feel that our people should be part of it, or we are just selecting the thematic areas that we are going to be working on. It's just a question.
So if I may attempt to answer your question, Ma, I think it's a bit of both. What we're trying to do also, remember we said we want to go in with our own agenda. So what we're doing now is to brainstorm what our possible agenda might be. I think maybe where we might take this next is to research and look at what the UNFCCC is doing and what their own thematic areas are. And when we've agreed, we think about how to map ours with theirs, but having our own specific asks and specific advocacy highlights in us as we're mapping it. So this is even just us. Remember what Ken said about identifying where our strengths and where our networks and where our work, where they correlate and how we can leverage on those strengths to then to frame what our interests or our ask or advocacy would be. So I guess that's what we're doing now. We're just sort of putting it all on the table, and then we're going to go back and then do some work and a bit of mapping to see how we can merge it with what the UNFCCC is doing. Does that answer your question?
Okay, all right. Yes, thank you.
Okay, Ma.
I actually think that Madam Priscilla's question is a very critical one because.
Sorry, please, can I just come in a bit?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. I think it was Mary Kuma who was speaking.
Yes. I think we should look at what UNFCCC is doing. From there, we cannot break it down so that in terms of addressing them, it will help us better to address them better than having ours going back to theirs to address our own situation. I don't know if you understand what I mean.
Yes, I do. And it dovetails into what Madam Priscilla, Dr. Achapa just asked as well. So yes. But Ken, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I was just going to speak on what Madam Priscilla said. I totally agree that, in fact, some of the areas of engagement we talked about here sounded more like strategy to me than thematic areas. So I think that maybe we need to go back on those. We have mentioned a few like youth and gender that are very clear and definite. I think the ones we have now, we should just take on those ones. And I think it's also important for us to I believe that there are other issues of probable concerns around the general COP theme around climate change, which could be of importance to frontline communities which have not been captured adequately. And so rather than making these very, very specific topics of engagement, let's make them broad thematic areas like energy transition, just transition, make them very, very broad so that when we engage frontline communities, engage other civil society organizations, and engage even the academia and labor unions, we will find a place within the framework of the broad thematic areas we've identified to insert their own specific and particular concerns in those places. So as much as possible, let's not make them very detailed and specific, And so when my friend Olumide raised the issue of religious bodies, my thinking, I could be wrong, my thinking was that engagement with religious bodies could be a strategy which we utilize to realize some of the thematic goals which we have. I could be wrong, but that's the way I see it.
Okay. All right, Ken. Thank you so much. We have to close now because we already have people even leaving the meeting. Can I suggest as a next step that I go back with the secretariat here, Wale and his team, and flesh out maybe some of the conversations we've had here, map them out, and then we'll circulate it around for people to comment on and for feedback, including what we're agreeing to do for the next meeting in another 3 weeks.
Sure, my sister. That sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you. That's excellent.
Thank you. It's great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Sorry to have run over time. See you in 3 weeks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Dr.
Right.
Priscilla.
And
Thank you, everybody.
Sir.